Revenge films.
This is a story about the worst wedding ever. I was a college student back then. It was right before summer vacation. I was looking for a part-time job. Then my friend Ali said to me, "Hey, they're looking for some help at this wedding hall. They need someone this Saturday. Interested? It's a one-time thing, but it pays well." Sign me up. A few days later on the day of the wedding, something feels off. The bride and groom looked really good, and their families were enjoying themselves, but something was wrong. There were barely any guests from the bride's side. The table near me only had one guest. There were lots of people on the groom's side, but they were underdressed. They looked like they were on their way home from work or something. And none of them were paying any attention. They were all playing on their phones. Some of them were asleep, and this one guy had his laptop open, and it didn't even stop after the party started. There were no entertainment or speeches. The MC tried to lighten the mood, but it was no use. They just didn't seem interested. And soon, the relatives started to realize that something wasn't right. They all started talking. At first, the bride and groom were smiling, but by the end, nobody cares about us. I wish we never got married. The bride started crying, and the groom didn't know what to do. Then the party was over. When I was cleaning up after them, I overheard the staff talking. I knew it wasn't going to be pretty, but wow. Talk about a tragedy! But I guess everything went according to plan. What do they mean? I was going to ask Ali about what happened, but she had to go home early that night. But I couldn't sleep that night. I was just so curious, so I decided to call her up. What was up with that wedding today? Well, you noticed, huh? You know, they told us it was gonna be ugly, but it was so much worse than I thought. What happened? Don't tell anyone I told you, but... Then she told me everything. The groom's name was Bob. He looked really nice and handsome, but the truth was, he was the devil himself. He was the type of person who would do anything to get what he wanted. He used to have a wife and son, but then he fell in love with his colleague's wife. He made up a bunch of excuses, threw his wife and son out of the house, and got a divorce. Then he invited his colleague and his wife over for dinner. He played the nice guy for a while and gained their trust. After that, he made up a bunch of stories to tear their relationship apart. To his colleague, he said,
Hey, your wife keeps asking me to go grab a drink with her. You should talk to her.
Then to his wife, he said,
Your husband was gonna throw out the lunch you made for him. So I ate it myself. I just called to let you know it was delicious.
They were all lies. But since they trusted him, things started to get awkward between the two. Then he made him in charge of a big project, making him work late every night. They were drifting further and further apart. He was trying to break their marriage, and it worked. Finally, the husband lost it and filed for divorce. Then Bob slipped right in and comforted her when she needed someone the most. A few months later, he proposed to her and she said yes. So basically, he stole his colleague's wife. I had no idea. Then Bob started harassing his colleague to make him quit. He didn't want them talking to each other, so he wanted him gone. He yelled at him every day and did everything he could to make his life miserable. And this was right after his divorce, so it didn't take long for him to give up and quit his job. But not everything went according to plan. After he proposed to her, they moved in together. But one day the fiancé saw Bob's phone. She found out about everything he did. She wanted to break it off with him, but she didn't want to make him angry. Who knows what he's capable of? She didn't want anyone to get hurt. So she decided to ruin the wedding to call off the marriage. First, she told her friends everything and told them not to come to the wedding. And many of them knew about how he had abandoned his last wife, so they didn't want to come anyways. Then she talked to his colleagues. They all saw what he did to the bride's ex-husband. They didn't want to come, but when the bride came and talked to them... Wait, so you want us to ruin the wedding, right?
Hell yeah, let's do this.
She told the wedding planner about all of this, so the staff knew about this too. That's why his colleagues were acting like that during the ceremony. They even thought about wearing mourning clothes to the wedding, but realized that was going too far, so they just wore clothes from work. The family members on the bride's side knew about this the whole time, but the groom's family was kept in the dark. It must have been living hell for them. After summer vacation was over, I went to school and ran into Ali, and she told me what happened after. The bride pretended to be really upset and told him she wanted to call off the marriage. Their relatives agreed too. The groom tried to fight it at first, but soon he gave up and agreed to call off the marriage. Bob was furious with his colleagues for the way they acted, but when he showed up at work, his bosses called him in for an emergency meeting before he could do anything. His colleagues reported him to the higher-ups. He didn't lose his job, but he got a demotion and got transferred to some dead-end position. Everyone thought he was going to quit, but he didn't. It was probably because he was up to his neck in debt. He had to pay his ex and husband for damages, and he still had to pay for the wedding too. At first, he said he wasn't going to pay for anything, but the ex lawyered up and sued him. After that, he finally gave up and started paying. Then, her ex-husband sued him too for damages. I heard he works 2 jobs now just to make ends meet. Oh, by the way, the bride and her ex got back together after everything was over, so glad it worked out for them. Anyways, I was still good friends with Ali, but one thing's for sure. I'm never going to help her with her part-time job again.
How was today's video? If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Stay tuned for more.